This podcast is being brought to you by LegalYogi.com. That is legal-yogi.com.
In today's discussion, we'll be answering about divorce and marriage separation. I am here with attorney Michael Hashim of Hashim and Spinola, located at Wendell Avenue in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Hello, attorney Hashim. Thank you for being here.
Good morning.
Yeah, and I've heard that there is some significance in divorce, for an innocent spouse, in the case of maybe infidelity or drug abuse, even physical abuse. Can you tell us what the main significance is in those cases?
Well, judges are human, and they sometimes, if they will obviously take into consideration where one spouse has been less guilty than the other, or where one spouse has been engaged in conduct which is not necessarily favorable. And so judges will take that into consideration. But fault, as far as property division and support, is becoming less and less relevant as time has gone on. So although fault legally sometimes is not an issue, I think at the end of the day it sometimes is.
Right, and you're saying that the judge is human, so they definitely see what's going on, so
Absolutely.
That can play an impact. Now, do you see a conflict if one partner hires a long-term family lawyer? Would you recommend this?
Well, the conflict really is more for the other party, for the opposing spouse, because sometimes a long-term family lawyer will have information about the marriage or about the property or income or assets that another attorney might not necessarily have. So he will then gain information by virtue of the fact he's known these people or represented them over the years. So it's more of a problem for the other spouse who can take the position that I don't feel this particular attorney should represent you in connection with this case because he is privy to all of my private information.
And they have that right?
They would have that right in some states, yes.
Okay. Now, is there any significance between ending a second marriage or a third marriage over a first-time divorce?
Well, some courts will consider the fact that you are under prior obligations, for example, to pay support in connection with a prior marriage. So it becomes significant in terms of you've got less pie to be divided and less assets and income to be divided, but other than that, it's not really a big consideration.
I see. Now, what would you say is how important the relationship is between the lawyer and his client in divorce?
I think it's extremely important. I think people have to feel comfortable with their attorney, and it has to be a comfort that has to be that goes both ways. So I often recommend to people that they I don't like to use the word shop around, but they basically use the initial interview with an attorney not only to explain their situation, but to sort of interview the attorney on their own, so to see if they feel comfortable with him and if what he's telling you and what he's explaining makes sense.
Right. You definitely have to have a comfort level. I mean, you're going to get almost into an intimate relationship. They're going to find out quite a lot about your personal life.
Right, you want someone who's going to take the time and, more importantly, who's had the experience, who's done a lot of domestic relations, who will spend the time with you to make sure that he's listening to your issues and that you feel that he will competently understands the law, he'll competently represent you.
Right. That's a given, yeah. Now, have there been any significant change in divorce law, say, over the past 20 years?
Well, one of the largest changes has been in terms of child support and spousal support. Many states have the law has evolved into so-called guidelines that try to make the payment of support, whether it's spousal or child, more uniform based on income. It's basically a formula approach where each spouse's income is considered, and based on the number of children, the amount of income that each spouse has, or that only one spouse has, a formula is used to determine how much, say, for example, child support will be in connection with spousal support, these guidelines now take into consideration the length of the marriage, the incomes of both parties, and things of that nature.
And now I've heard of people's paychecks and wages being garnished, for support. Is that these laws have an effect in those areas, and even some people getting, ramifications for not paying?
Well, again, the practice varies by state to state, but in some states, a child support order, for example, can actually, I don't like to use the word garnishment, but there can be an order to your employer that a certain, X number of dollars be subtracted from your check and be sent to the recipient spouse every week or every month, whatever it is. And this happens more often when for example, the Department of Revenue is involved if somebody's not paying their support or if somebody's receiving assistance.
Okay, so that the person that needs to receive, those monies to support the child will actually receive them, because there's been some talk and some things around the web, where just people just disappear, hide money and that kind of thing, and so this is a way.
I mean, if you have a spouse who refuses to make payments on a voluntary basis, then an order that the employer make those payments can be obtained. And often, if a spouse does leave the jurisdiction, and he can be tracked down and found, and in this day and age, that can be accomplished, and that order can be sent out of state as well.
Yeah, thanks to modern technology, I guess.
Right.
Well, we're just about finished up here. Do you think you could give our audience one important thing to remember? Maybe one important thing to avoid, one do and one don't, if you will?
Well, I think the most important thing is to try to be as upfront as you can with your attorney. Provide him with all the information. The last thing he needs to do is he or she needs to do is be surprised by facts that maybe aren't favorable to your case. I often tell people, if I have the unfavorable information, I can deal with it in a positive fashion. Sometimes people think that if they hide things or don't disclose things, that they won't come out. Eventually, everything comes out. So I would say the most important thing to do is to be upfront with your attorney and let them know everything, even if it's not favorable to you, or if you think it's not favorable.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I think that all this information will definitely, help the listeners. I want to remind everyone that we will have additional segments that will be solely about child custody, visitation rights, and child support, and also followed by another segment that will focus solely on real estate and divorce and the division of community property and divorce, as well as the division of assets.
This podcast was brought to you by LegalYogi.com, providing hundreds of free legal consultations every day since 1999. Our database contains over 160,000 legal and financial professionals, and our phone line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you would like a free legal consultation, you can call 1-800-397-1755 from any state in the U.S., and we'll be happy to provide you with a free legal consultation. Our web address and phone number are on the podcast image for your convenience, or you can simply go to LegalYogi.com. That is LegalYogi.com.